Welcome everybody, we're really glad to have you here. Just in brief, my name is Jason, I'm co-founder of Edge Growth and now 10x Entrepreneur, and we're going to be hosting a marvelous panel tonight talking about some of the lessons from scale-ups in South Africa. To get going, let me maybe just give a brief introduction to where these lessons are coming from. Around 10 years ago, I had a spasm. It was quite a bad spasm, so bad that I gave up my paying job to start a business helping people for free, which I did for quite a long time. And that's what entrepreneurs tend to do these days. They don't pay themselves, they give away their app for free. And so I started Edge Growth. And our mission is to create jobs by building businesses. So, of course, the first thing we did is we raised capital and we launched a fund. And so for now, probably 6 or 7 years, we've been funding high-growth entrepreneurs. And we've learned some surprising lessons along the way, and frankly, it's bloody hard funding you guys. And so out of the hard lessons, the scars on our backs, we've looked around the world at how other people are doing this, and frankly, it's hard for them too. So we've packaged the lessons from the scale-up gurus around the world, and that's what we try and help entrepreneurs with these days. So let me share with you a common pattern that we see. Now, we've got an investment team of 7 or 8 people. We look at a couple of hundred business plans a year, and normally the story goes something like this. Entrepreneurs come to us, raising funding, and the best ones, things are going crackingly well. They've got a marvelous product. Customers are raving fans. All the numbers are going up and to the right. And those that we really like, after doing a due diligence, we think they're going to make it to the promised land. That's about 1 in 100 for us. We write a check. So we write a check, and then we're along for the ride. A year or two later, the business is going forward nicely, customers, revenue up and to the right, but a couple of setbacks, unexpected, couldn't be predicted, and so we're not quite on track, but we're moving forward. Fast forward a year or two, same story, only more. Fast forward another year or two, same story, only much more, and now the setbacks have been compounding for 3 or 4 years, and to put it plainly, the business is stuck. Now, being stuck looks something like this. I have no money, therefore I can't hire experienced talent, therefore I'm hell of a stretched, and therefore I'm running 1,000 miles an hour, making big mistakes all over the place, and therefore spending half my time fighting fires. Therefore I have bad margins and poor cash flow, therefore who the heck would fund me, and therefore I have no cash. And you see how the cycle perpetuates. So this is what getting stuck looks like, and the worst thing is these things all reinforce each other. It's like a vicious quagmire, and this is no man's land. And by the way, this is over half of the top 1% of businesses that get stuck in this place. This is the reason we're here. So there are a couple of reasons for this, and I'm just going to summarize in a nutshell. The most important reason is the business changes fundamentally a couple of times as you scale. When you start, you're an experiment, you're trying to find something worth scaling. Then you find it and you scale it. And as you scale it, you now have to figure out how to manage it, this whole thing that's selling the thing that you're scaling. And that introduces quite a couple of fundamentally important shifts for you as an entrepreneur into your business. The first of which is what your business is doing every day. Initially, it's experimenting around product market fit and a scalable business model, but over time, you're building an organization, and then you're building systems to manage the organization, and those are all very different things and require very different skills. The second thing is the type of community you're part of every day and how that feels. Initially, it's just a small kind of mission-focused team, but as it grows, it becomes, to some extent or the other, a bureaucracy, which means the culture changes as well, and that means that the skills required to manage this big community of people taking this product to market also changes. And most entrepreneurs don't know any of this when they get going. Most entrepreneurs therefore get stuck in no man's land, and a handful make it out to the promised land. And those entrepreneurs we call 10x entrepreneurs, because they scale a business 10 times the scale of typical lifestyle business, or the ones that get stuck in no man's land. Now, I'm not talking about weak entrepreneurs when I talk about no man's land. I'm talking about more than half of the top 1% of entrepreneurs. So it's not smarts, it's not energy, it's not passion, it's not commitment, it's not incentives. It's frankly, just not knowing the right things to do at the right time. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight, what differentiates the 10x entrepreneurs that make it through. And it turns out that you can actually observe 12 things that they do much better than entrepreneurs that get stuck. The first of which is focus. Sounds simple, try focusing in a tornado. It's hell of a difficult, and that's what a scale-up is like. It's like a tornado. And so what 10x entrepreneurs realize is it's going to be a tornado, and therefore I'm certainly not going to make it worse than it has to be. I'm not going to scale a mess. Do you know what it looks like when you scale mess? It looks like this. It looks like exponential mess. An exponential mess doesn't make money, and it's not fun to run. So 10x entrepreneurs, they nail what they're going to scale, and then they scale it. And they don't scale it until they have nailed it. So that is focus. That's the first discipline of 10x entrepreneurs. The second is they learn how to shift from experimenting to executing. They stop the thousands of little laboratory experiments around, what the customer is going to love and which functionality next and how do we get it to market. And once they've got they've nailed what they're going to scale, they focus on executing and growing it. Now, this again sounds trite, but a hell of a difficult inside the tornado. The third thing they do well is they realize that I'm not going to be the one to scale all of this. It's going to be other people. And so they build a team. And so you're just going to get over the fact that I put New Zealand up there for now, realize that they are, in fact, a better team, even though I'm a Springbok. But the challenge behind building an A team is this, is that what an A player looks like is very different when you're small versus when you're big. When you're small, you need Swiss Army knives. You can basically get just about anything done pretty well. The bigger you get, the more you need hammers and saws and pliers, specialist instruments, that are able to do specialist tasks much better than Swiss Army knives. And most entrepreneurs fail to make this shift and keep hiring young, junior, high potential Swiss Army knives, which are hell of a valuable in the startup phase, but actually need to be supported by senior, experienced specialists as you scale. Number 4, harness your board. What is the worst thing about having a board as an entrepreneur? You have to report to them. And what happens if you don't perform in the company you built? They can fire you. That's the worst thing about having a board. And if this puts you off, you're probably not a 10x entrepreneur, because the data is in. 10x entrepreneurs build great boards, and therefore they build more wealth, and they become better CEOs. Having a high-functioning board makes you a better CEO and builds more valuable companies. Number 5, they systematize revenue growth. They move from having every sale as a project that involves me to having a high velocity engine that produces leads and converts those into sales systematically. Number 6, very similarly, they systematize how they delight customers. See, the problem as you grow is that credit controllers and debtors clerks don't produce customer delight. And the more of those kind of people you have in your organization and, compliance officers and so forth, the less your customers have mojo towards you. And that's just inevitable as you scale, unless you intentionally avoid the outcome of killing customer delight in your organization. And 10x entrepreneurs build culture and systems around delighting customers. Number 7, they manage money militantly. Who's an amateur athlete around here? Runs a couple of times a week, swims a couple of times a week. You guys are lazy. Okay. Okay. Who's an Ironman or a Comrades or a Two Oceans runner around you? Okay, we've got 1 or 2 in the room. Now, you'll know that you cannot move from a couple of 3K runs a week to the Ironman on the same regime. You need to manage your energy as a scarce resource when you move to doing Ironman. So you need to be meticulously planning diets, energy input, energy output, charts, etc. And that's kind of like how you need to shift the way you manage money as you scale up. In the early days, you can look at your bank balance. Okay, I can pay the bills this week. As you grow, you need more and more sophisticated systems to see what's coming down the line and know you're going to be able to make payroll at the end of the month. 10x entrepreneurs build great systems around managing cash and finances and profitability, knowing where the money comes from and what takes the money out of the business. Most entrepreneurs who get stuck do so at least in part because they now employ 79 people and they still run the business off the bank balance. Number 8, be investable. You may not want investors. I'm one, and I wouldn't want me either. But even if you don't want investors, you want optionality. You want to be able to raise money if you need to raise money. You want to be able to exit the business if you want to exit the business. And if your business is investable, well, then you have options. So these are the 8 business disciplines of 10x entrepreneurs, but the reality is it's not really these things that differentiate the 10x entrepreneurs from the rest, because doing those things well comes from having a 10x inner game. It comes from doing the things on the inside that make you the kind of person that scales and becomes a better and better CEO as time marches on and the organization changes. So the next 4 disciplines are actually personal disciplines. The first of which, again, is focus. See if you spot a theme over here. 10x entrepreneurs realize that the greatest threat to their business is how thinly spread they are. Because the more thinly spread you are, the more of an obstacle you are to everyone around you doing a great job. So 10x entrepreneurs militantly build a regime, an operating system for themselves, if you will, that helps them always know what are my top 3 things and make sure I'm spending 50% of my time on it. Number 10, bring your A game. This is one of the most challenging. I mean, it's easy to talk about things like managing your energy and maintaining your mojo, and those are things 10x entrepreneurs do, but the third one is more difficult, which is playing to your strengths. Because your peak performance zone, that zone where your skills and your passions and your natural energies come together, I mean, it's a small space. You're brilliant at a small number of things. And 10x entrepreneurs orchestrate their role around the stuff that they're brilliant at, where they can make their highest contribution. The entrepreneurs that tend to get stuck tend to focus on role and on title and on power and on authority and on protection of my interests, and therefore land up really not in their sweet spot, and therefore land up being one of the biggest problems in their own businesses. So number 10, play to your strengths, bring your A game, which leads to number 11. I mean, your A game today is not good enough in 5 years' time, frankly. As the organization scales, the challenge of leading and managing a complex organization exponentially increases the demands on you as a leader. And that's why, discipline number 11 is about scaling yourself. And in my view, this is actually the number 1 law of scaling up, which is scale thyself. Because typically, entrepreneurs who are scaling companies have never run big organizations before. They've never built big organizations before, and that's statistically, which means that the skills you have today that you're really good at are not sufficient for running the organization that's going to exist in 5 years' time. So 10x entrepreneurs use accelerated learning tools to make sure that they will have in 5 years what the business needs of them. They'll systematically build the organization building and management skills which they need. And lastly, 10x entrepreneurs choose success, which means they figure out what's important to them, they choose that, they live with it. Because 10x entrepreneurs, or all entrepreneurs, are confronted with dilemmas all the time. And here's just one of those. This won't tell you what you want to hear. It says that statistically, entrepreneurs make more money when they give up control of the board and give up the CEO role. Those are the entrepreneurs that make the most money. The entrepreneurs that make the least money are the ones who remain CEO and who keep control of the board. That, of course, is a dilemma, because some entrepreneurs really want to be in command of their own destiny and run their own creation. And some really want to create wealth, but most want both of those. And if you want both, you will probably land up with neither in the end. So that's the dilemma of 10x entrepreneurs. So 10x entrepreneurs choose. They don't put their head in their sand. They confront the choice. They surround themselves with great advice and insight, and then they choose and they be content with their choice. So those are the 12 disciplines of 10x entrepreneurs in summary.